Hey there, welcome to Mike's Mail, episode 13, lucky 13. Not so lucky for those who like root development in the Canadian Rockies. Way across over there at those tables, they're about to sign the anti-insulation legislation. Before we hear any more about that, we'll come back to you. We have some questions for Mike's Mail, so take it away. Let's go to the first question. Well, it would seem that Adastic is having a threesome on the Ellingwood-Arrête on Crestone Needle down in Colorado, and his problem is one of timing and wonders if he can do things differently. He's using an ATC and or a reverso, which I really like. I think it's a wonderful toy for a threesome. It can step in and replace your hands if you get tired. But where was it? Okay. Oh, yeah. Now, a threesome could be awkward unless someone is ready to take the lead. And more often than not, I find myself taking this position. A threesome is often more comfortable with a friend, but it can be really a wonderful experience with a complete stranger. The important thing is that each person must know what is expected of them when they switch positions, and the person or persons taking on a new position should not assume a position that might get themselves or others injured. Things will move at their own speed, so don't rush anything. If you're leading, leading this threesome, then be sure to pay an equal amount of attention to both of your partners. And I think that we can solve our buddy's problems here with just a little bit of extra rope, and that'll allow him to reach his peak and enjoy the experience that willing partners can provide. Having had my share of threesomes, I'm going to provide you with what I've learned and how best to handle one of these situations. Okay, folks, the crowd's noise is just dying down, but it's official. It is no more installation of bolts in national parks. This is really going to change a lot of things for climbers. You just don't know, like the amount of development that's been going on, and it's a $5,000 fine for the first attempt. Okay, so this is the way I imagine the scenario. I figure he must be using two ropes. You know, he's climbing this route and he's got his two friends with him. And the question is, would it be quicker? You know, because one of the limiting factors was running the rope through the ATC, or the reverso in this case. You know, the nice thing about the reverso is that you got this hands-off feature, right? So you can manage each rope individually because people move at different speeds. And without that, I mean, trying to use, say, like two munter hitches, which I think is something that he's asking. So trying to take in rope, like a munter hitch actually, you know, to operate correctly, likes to have the rope pushed into it so that it runs nice and smooth. Otherwise, if you're trying to pull it, you start pushing the kinks down into your rope. And it might be all right with, you know, a well broken rope that you can do that. And it's not really hands-free, so you always got to either, you know, like step on it if you're going to try and do that. Probably not a great idea with crampons, but I've done it lots of times. From a safety perspective, you know, I think you're losing out big time. And for speeding things up, I don't really think, you know, that's really going to be that much of a possibility. I've done this lots of times, and yeah, I don't see it as a real advantage. The solution might be something completely different. Let's take a look at maybe one way of handling that kind of 5/6 terrain. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to hook up a team for end roping. And I have a couple of volunteers hanging around here. Hey, you guys, are you going to help me show these people how to hook up for end roping? Yes, you are, or I'll sell you to the Wicked Witch of the West. Here's somebody you guys haven't met. This is Tyler Barter. Don't go away, Tyler. Stay right here. And of course, you guys all know Avon Barter. You can stay right here. All right, the first thing to consider when I'm hooking up people to end rope them, if I'm going to bring up 2 people at a time, is which is a stronger climber or which is a stronger walker. Because I want to keep the weaker person closer to me. In this case, it's Tyler Barter is the one who's going to be closest to me. So that means that Avon will be at the very end of the rope. All right, so let's rig her up and then we'll tie in Tyler. Avon. All right, through the tie-in points of their harness, right? So there's no big mystery about that. Where it gets tricky is with the next person that I'm tying in, the one who's going to be closest to me. You can use end roping up to about 5/6, okay? Then I just measure out some rope between them. Here's where it gets tricky. Because I got to tie Tyler in with a fisherman's bow. So the first thing I do is isolate the bight of rope by doing a simple overhand knot right there, okay? Now I'm going to tie Tyler in with a fisherman's bow. I do another overhand on the bight, right? Then I take the bight and I feed it through Tyler's tie-in points of his harness. Okay, get it nice and close, the same as we would tie in anyways. And then take the bight, push it through the overhand. It's just a fisherman's series, okay? So there's no mystery about that. And I'll show you a close-up of how to tie this. Okay, then I pull this nice and tight, and then I have this extra rope here, and it's a little bit long. So I just make sure that it doesn't come undone. I just take a spare carabiner, it doesn't have to be a locker, and I just clip it to the harness. Now what we have here is a little bit of play. You come forward, Tyler. So the key here too is also this cannot be too long. Often people make them too long, you know, giving each person enough play so that they can move independently. But if it's too long, this victim, or this client, this person is going to be tripping over their rope. All right. When they're moving together, sometimes I have this, it's a little long for when they're moving together. I like to have them closer together when I'm short roping them on easier terrain. So what I'll do here is I'll just put a figure 8 or an overhand to eat up some of this rope. And then I guess technically you'd use a locking carabiner. And then I just clip it back in. So that shortens up the rope and the distance between them. So when they're moving on 4th class terrain, they're not too far apart. And then when they move into 5th class terrain, quite often I'll just drop this, open it up, and give them more space, more room so that they can, they're not tripping over each other. Once again, the reason I have the stronger person behind me or at the very end of the rope is that they're less likely to fall and pull the other person off, and they can coach the weaker climber or the weaker person on the rope. So that's kind of my thoughts behind how I hook people up when I'm end roping. And let's just take a look at the process, why this knot works so well, okay? So what happens is Avon's trying to pull Tyler, and if he falls on me, the weight will come directly to me and leave an area of independence for the person who is climbing. Okay, get up to the pitch, bang. Okay, now I got my friends are coming up on sort of whatever kind of terrain it is, that sort of mid 5th class sort of thing, 5/6. But now if I throw them up on a munter hitch and they're moving fairly quickly, because I have 2 hands free and I can push the rope in and pull it at the same time, the munter hitch actually works quite well. And you can say it is an added safety factor. So it may be justifiable having 2 people at the end of the rope hooked up correctly, and then being able just to keep the rope tight on them all the time, because even if one person slips, they're only going to go a meter or so. But the thing to think about though is you have 2 people on that rope, so if he does pull the other person off, which is quite possible, then you've got 2 people landing on your anchor. So your anchor has to be bomb proof. So if you're using trad gear and you think 3 pieces are good, maybe reconsider 5 pieces or 6, you know, sort of thing, because you do have 2 people at the end of your rope. So I don't know. For me, that's kind of one solution to that, how to deal with that 5/6 terrain, and I want to move 2 people along. The problem is if you're doing changeovers, the other, you know, one of the other people want to lead. That's kind of time consuming, and then it's a safety factor too. If you guys don't, you know, really, or if they don't really know what they're doing really well, tying and untying from the rope and on a long pitch is probably not a good idea. So the person who takes it on, you know, if you're going to lead the whole thing yourself and you're taking a couple of friends, which is quite likely, then and you lead every pitch, it's actually quite quick. It doesn't take long to restack the rope and grab the bits of gear that you left behind. And that's about it for that solution from me. Back to Ottawa. Well, we're just seconds away from the historic signing. You can feel the tension building up in here. This is really going to change a lot of things, you know, and all because of that bolting of paper chase, and then the other guys ripping the bolts out and then getting rebolted, caught the eyes of Ottawa. So we'll come back to you here in a minute. Let's go back to Mike's mail number 13 and solve this moving over the terrain issue. Okay, here's a quick close-up on how to tie in. So first you want to isolate a bight of rope. This is going back to the person at the end of the rope, and this way goes to the Lord and Master ahead of me. So now I want to take a big, fairly good sized bight of rope. This is about right here, sort of waist down, maybe a little shorter. There we go. Now I want to isolate myself onto that rope. So first of all, put an overhand knot in. I like an overhand just because it's smaller and cleaner. All right. Now I'm going to have to tie in with a fisherman's bow, so I'm going to give myself a bit of a leash. Then I'm going to put an overhand knot through. All right, so now I take the bight, I tie into the harness as I would the end of the rope, right through where the belay loop goes on most harnesses. Okay, now I feed the bight through the overhand, pull it so it's all nice and neat and clean to my harness, put another overhand knot around, through. Okay, then I take the bight, take a spare carabiner, just clip it off to my gear loop so I know I'm good and tight. There we go, that's solid. And then that might be just a little short, so I'd probably give myself a couple more inches, but I don't want it to be too long either, so that's just about right, so that it's kind of mid-thigh. Any lower around the knee or that, when you're walking up, you find it kind of gets in the way sometimes. So that's the way it is. Now when the person behind me gets pulled, I have some leeway, right? And if I get pulled, my Lord and Master catches me. All right? Well, I'm glad you could make it Mike's Mail, and we could cover this event for you live from Ottawa. This is a really big deal. I'd like to thank all our sponsors. Oh, we don't have any sponsors. Anyhow, we'll see you next week. And so, and until then, take care, and you just keep sending in those mails, and I'll keep answering them.